is our subject today. Yeah, so we got our watercolors, we got a pen, and we got our pen. I like to do an undersketching with just a colored pencil. And you can barely see that so that you don't feel like you have to erase. All right. And then sometimes I'll have some of these other things. We were not going to need these right now. Okay. And I like to usually have my little sun icon, especially if I'm sketching indoors, to help me accentuate where the sun might be coming from, because in here I've got lights from every single direction so that you can see this better. So that's not how it is in the field, of course. Let's see. Jolyn says, I have a small accordion sketchbook, micron pen, and colored pencils. Great. And I've got tons of colored pencils as well. So I try not to usually take too many colors out in the field because I can't keep track of them. They fall into the grass or the sand. So often I'll just have multiple pencils of the same color just for outlining, getting my first sketch. And then what else do I have? Oh yeah, sometimes I have one of these so that we can see things up close. Let's see. Vicki said you lost sound. Yeah, I don't know. Again, you might need to come out and come back in again. Yeah, so let's see. What else? Where else are we? Let's see. Are we still? Yeah. All righty. So let me see. I always have too many pieces of paper. Let's get started. So we've got our first thing here. Do you like my watercolor background? That's new. So I'm learning how to do new things. And that's prettier background than just the black background I've had before. So tell me if you like my watercolor background. Kate, yeah, you went out and came back in again. Now, related to coming into the program here, I would love it if you would share this with people. You know, it's getting harder and harder to get found online with all the millions of instructors, and also with the algorithms are not really helping smaller creators like me get found. So if you're really enjoying my programs, please share them with families and friends, or if you know educators or naturalists, I'd love to have you do that. Let's see, Cindy, you're going to use your Cotman watercolor Sketchers pocket paint. Yeah, that's great. Okay, good. So let's see. Okay, there we go. So now we're all ready. And I think the lighting is good here. So where am I here? Oh, there we are. Oh, my raspberry fell on the floor. Just a moment. I don't want to step on that. I got brand new carpet in here. I don't like this. There we go. So what are we starting with? We're starting with these guys. So these guys are blueberries. And I want you to be able to just start sketching, because I tend to talk a lot, as you probably know. Let me see. Oh, yeah, that was from the other day. Now, let's make this a little simpler for you. There. I think that's a little simpler. And there we go. I never know where to put this. There. Something's blocking the light. Okay, great. All righty. So what do we have here? We have blueberries, and I'm trying to find a good pen here. So we're just going to nature journal about these blueberries. And so these are blueberries. And there are a lot of species. And this is in the Vaccinium genus. and you underline genus names. And I just put SP. That means it could be various species. So there's lots of different blueberries, as well as the other species we're drawing today. So we don't quite know what species they are. And these could be a cultivated variety as well. So if you want, you can just start drawing them. Let's see. And so, like I said before, I will often just draw with one of these Prismacolor Very Thins, although I understand these have been discontinued, and I'm really bummed about that. Tell me if you know of some other colored pencils that have a really fine point like this. You know, not the fat points like this, which are more for shading in. Okay, so I'm looking at this from a different angle, so my drawing will look a little different. So you do you. But I will just, and again, today's not really a formal tutorial, you know, it's supposed to be kind of a community fun thing. So I don't know if you can see that, but again, this is kind of how I'll start is I'll just get some berries in there and maybe we'll draw a close up of a berry. So I'll just pencil in kind of where I'm going to be here. And then there's a bunch of leaves kind of in the front here and different leaves in the back. And there's some unripe berries. I don't know if we can get that light better. Some unripe berries over here. So yeah, I don't think you can see that. That's okay. So that's how I'll just start is these very light pencils that one can hardly see. So you don't feel like you have to erase. And for fun, I might make an inset of a bigger berry because that'll be more fun to paint. Um, yeah, they kind of have this top there. Right. Yeah, so you can barely see that. So now I'm going to make it darker. So, you know, any pencil you can just draw very lightly or darker or darker or darker. So I'll start really light. I can push harder and harder and harder. And so you can really see that. And so the edges of this blueberry have these little doodads, which are actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are actually the leftover sepals. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get a bigger one here. So this is what we call inferior fruit, where the fruit is underneath, kind of like an apple. When you eat an apple, at the top of the apple, you see this little area. So yeah, I like to just draw very lightly in these pens. And there we go. So that's that one. And then I can get this one a little darker because I don't want to get too much colored pencil or graphite stuff on here. And again, you draw what you see because I'm looking at more of an angle and you're looking more at top. And I'm not trying to, you know, get these leaves all perfectly like foreshortened or curved or whatever. Let's see, we got one berry in the front. And one berry here with the little sepals and another berry here. It's nice to kind of show things overlapping. Okay. Can you guys see that at all? Again, I want you to just do your thing, have fun. And so I like to keep it pretty loose like this because if I'm going to add watercolor, I don't want a lot of graphite on there. Okay. And so, yeah. So anyway, these are blueberries. Again, a really large group, a lot of species, both in Eurasia, Europe, as well as North America, all the way up to Alaska. And they're related to wild blueberries, of course, and many blueberries are grown commercially on the East Coast and like in Canada. Um, but there's ones in North America as well as, on the Pacific Northwest. So they're related to other species of blueberries, to huckleberries, which we're lucky here in Oregon, in the Cascades or the Pacific Northwest, to have a lot of wild huckleberries. And people like me, we won't tell you exactly where our patch is, just like we won't tell you where um, our wild mushroom patches are in the fall because we don't want you to know. So these are in the Ericaceae family. That's known as the heath or the heather family. And there's a lot of species in the northern latitudes. A lot of them are in wet, swampy areas. A lot of them are in really acidic soil. And in fact, to make our soil more acidic, we put our coffee grounds, we dump our coffee grounds at the base of each of our plants. We've got about, let me see, I'm looking right out the window where they're growing. There's about 6 of these plants that are fruiting right now, and they're not quite ripe, maybe in a few days. But anyway, yeah, tell me in the chat box if you've seen any of these species, bilberries, huckleberries, blueberries, lingonberries in the field. So it's an amazing family, pretty large family in the northern latitudes, the heather or heath family. And that's the Ericaceae. Family names always end in CEAE in plants. So yeah, these are the heaths and heathers. It also includes like azaleas and rhododendrons that we have native here in the Pacific Northwest, as well as in parts of Europe and Asia. Yeah, they like really a swampy, infertile, acidic soil. It includes cranberries too. So a lot of things that you may eat or purchase at farmers markets in the summertime. Tell me if you have a nice farmers market where you live. Okay, so anyway, I want to start adding some color to this. And so what do we have here? Let's see. So I might start with the leaves. And what I'm going to do, it's fun when you're nature journaling to try to practice. I like to add some little decorative swatches, which also help me to match the green. So there are so many greens in nature. And let's see, I got to have my little doodad right here. So, if you just picked something out of your palette, that one's obviously too bright. And it's easy to get too cartoony with your colors. You usually really want to mute them out. So that one's too yellowish and kind of muted. This one's too green. But it's kind of fun to do little decorative swatches. What's another green I have in here? And that's a sap green. And again, I have my little cheat sheet here. So I had phthalo green, hooker's green, sap green, and then of course you can make your own greens. There we go. You can make your own greens by using various blues, and we have warm and cool blues and warm and cool yellows. So that's nice to use. But I think that sap green is pretty close. The hooker's green is kind of close too. And so yeah, and they're going to vary depending on where the sun is too. So on the leaves that are directly facing the sun, they might be a lighter color. And of course, the underneath of the leaf, some of the leaves are going to be showing underneath. So that's going to be slightly different um, color. I don't know if you can see in the video, but this is a paler green here. And so sometimes, yeah, I'll just put it right next to that. And so, you could just have more of a washed out sap green that like that versus a stronger one like that, to indicate how you'll see some leaves, the underside, some leaves upper side, some leaves will be in sun, and so they might be a little bit more yellow. And a lot of times I'll just layer over while I'm painting. uh, and watercolors are very forgiving if you work on them right away. So see how I just do a lot of fresh layering right there. So yeah, and then what other colors do we have here? We have the stems, and the stems are kind of a burnt burnt umber, I'd say. They're the stems are sort of a burnt umber, and maybe some parts of the stem might be a warmer, like burnt sienna. So those are some other colors I might put in the stems. And then we have the berries, and the berries have this sort of they have a sort of a bloom on them, they call it. It's sort of like a white stuff. So if I was to rub this off, you would see it come off. I'm going to eat one of these at the end. So they're not totally shiny purplish blue. So what else do we have here? What could I start with? Well, I don't want to pull one of these off right now. Well, they're each a little bit different too. So again, you don't have to be totally concerned with exactly matching, because in the field, some are going to be more ripe than others. So we kind of just even have a little bit. What do we have here? We've got a little bit of a kind of a pinkish one. And so again, I'm just still making some little practice swatches for fun. And then some are a little bit more purple. And well, that's too much. And so again, I can just go and maybe add a little. And if that's too much. That's a bright phthalo blue or cobalt blue. I got cobalt and phthalo blues, so that's a little crazy. So sometimes, again, it can be easy to just go overboard with your colors. And so you can mute things. Often you can mute something, with some sort of a brown on it. That kind of makes it a little bit greenish. And then you can also afterwards add a little bit of a Uniposca pen to get some of that whitish bloom, or white charcoal pen, which I don't know where that is. But anyway, so now that we have some of our colors here, we can go ahead, if you haven't already started. So I kind of know what I'm going to do here. And yeah, so sometimes I'll do just the easier stems. And I'll often just start with a light layer and maybe go darker. Yeah, this is pretty. Let me see if I can, what do I do here? Let's see. Always trying to, oh, I see that. Oh, is that better? Wow. See, I think that's a little better there. You can see my drawings better. So this little doodad can control the video camera up front. So sometimes it's hard to tell. Oh, I gotta put my glasses on. That might help. So yeah, I've got a few browns here, and it looks like, some part of the stem, actually even this part of the stem coming up here, there's another part coming up here that even looks a little dead. That looks like the darkest. Um, and then, yeah. And let's see, where am I? Okay. It's always challenging to teach sketching because if you're really going to do a good job and start getting into your right brain, you can't really talk as well. But anyway, you do your thing. Cindy says, "Are lignan berries grown in the US?" I don't know. I think so. I think we have here in the Pacific Northwest, we do have various berries that are grown. Okay, what am I going to do? Now I'm going to get some yellow-ish, and I'll just make a pile here. I might start with all one color. What do we have here? And then maybe a little lighter, and then I can usually I can start with something pretty light, and then add some highlights and shadows here and there. And again, we're not trying to do botanical illustrations. There's plenty of people whose work I love online if you want to do that. Anna Mason is one of my favorites, but she doesn't do any of the sketching generally. You're just kind of focused on painting, and she does it some very detailed, hours long, laborious lessons. But I love her. Um, but anyway, I just like to keep it light and loose as if you're in the field. And you are kind of looking back and forth and noticing things. So, like here, now that I've got a first draft here, these could maybe be some of my leaves that are you see on the underside. And you actually see some nice veins in there, but we might add those with colored pencil. But then anyway, I might just now warm this up a bit and just decide to make, some of my leaves, like maybe some of the front ones or something, uh, a little bit richer in color, like that. I don't know how well you can see this stuff. Or, a little bit bluer. And then, yeah, and you might want to just have some fun little things in the background. Okay. And then going on to the berries. Again, if you look at these, there's going to be a wide variety of colors. So in one clump, this would be less mature. So all of these would be more of a greenish yellow. Whereas in this clump, these are all ripening, but there's still various colors of kind of pink and purple and blue. So you wouldn't mix unripe and ripe ones in the same little clump. And so, I might put some of my unripe ones, which I might start off with a pale. That's too much. It's too easy to get cartoony. So that's why I like to just start really light. And so this clump would be unripe. And I even see some little tiny flecks of, purple in there on some of these. Okay, yeah, I don't know if you can see those, but you can just do you. All right, and then this clump is brighter, and again, this one is kind of a pinkish. So I will generally start with a little bit more cartoony, bright colors, and then I can always soften those later. But with watercolors, you can't usually go back. It's not like acrylics or oils. You can't get lighter. So I will generally start off a little bright and cartoony, And then you can even make it subtler. Oh, that's a nice subtle blueberry color. So again, if you joined us late, we're doing blueberries in the genus Vaccinium and in the family Ericaceae. Um, so I'll do a first layer everywhere, and let's see. I want to make this a little bit brighter. Again, sometimes I'll just make my first pass brighter, and I'll just kind of get it everywhere. And then I can add some highlights and shadows, either with watercolor. And when you're in the field, you're generally not going to have a bunch of sizes of colors. I mean, of brushes. So sometimes you're going to have to do some more strokes. Although sometimes sometimes I'll have three. So like this is a flat brush that I'm using right now. This is a fine pointed brush for little details. And this is a kind of a medium sized brush. So, you can use anything. And newer brushes tend to be really wet and leaky like this. So you have to make sure you're drying them off, else you'll get too much water. Whereas older brushes, they get clogged and the plastic gets stiff. And so they're drier and drier. So, these brushes aren't very expensive. So you can get new ones, but I like to keep some that are older and some that are younger. Okay, how we doing in the chat box? I meant to move on to our other berries, but I hope we're having fun here. So yeah, anyway, I have a first draft here, and then I might, add some more, get a little brighter here, a little bit more details. And often I'll just do a wet and wet. Yeah, that is, speaking of wet, that's a little too wet. I might just use a few different colors here. Oh my gosh, that's quite bright. Yeah, these are really wet. Let me get a smaller one. And yeah, I will just, fix this on the fly. I'll just mainly be doing wet and wet. And I might keep it. Watercolors are fun. Like here, I've got kind of a purple and a blue, and they look pretty cartoony from my angle. I don't know if you can see that from yours, but remember that watercolors always dry more muted. So you can start like here. I'm going to start adding some more color, and I might use this purple kind of under these sepals and in the shadowed edge if I'm going to have my sun coming from here. And then I might use, a different kind of, what do we have here? Different kind of blue up here. Yeah, that's good. So that's, yeah, I don't know if what you can tell in the video, but this is a different kind of more muted blue, and this is a cooler purple that I could have more in the shade here. And this is a sphere, just like drawing any kind of sphere. And then the insides of these, it's kind of like these 5 sepals are coming out of this. What do we have here? I'm going to just coming out of this little, it's kind of like a crater, like a volcanic crater. So these 5 sepals are coming up out of this kind of indentation. Okay, how we doing? Nobody's chatted lately. Oh, Julia. Hi, Julia. Great to see you. You're in SoCal. Great. Wondering how the weather is. The weather, of course, is so crazy in a lot of places right now. But yeah, anyway, so I could just add a few more. And these berries are not ripe, so they're a little bit greener. They're almost the same green as the leaves. And then I could just add some more brightness to these closer leaves to accentuate them. All right. I'm drying my brush on the table here. I have to remember to dry my brush on this little doodad, which is Jack Law's idea of having the little wrist sock. So, are you guys drawing along with me? So, maybe I'll put a little shadow here. So, yeah, really neat family of plants, really diverse. The Ericaceae. These also include a lot of saprophytic plants, which I don't think I've ever drawn with you guys before, like snow plant and pine drops, and Indian pipe. There's a lot of really cool saprophytes that live in forest duff and that take their energy from the roots of trees. So, really interesting family. Hi, Suzanne. You said yes. Good. What was my question? Oh, if you're drawing along with me? Yeah, good. All right. So we could always add some colored pencils to these later. Um, and we could also add highlights. So, well, let's see if that's, you got to be careful with these because they can leak a big old blob. So sometimes I'll kind of warm these up and dip them and get them flowing. I don't want to have a big blob. So, I might add some of that kind of bloom here. Can you see that? Oh, yeah. And maybe trying to lift these edges of the sepals off visually from the main berry. Can you see that? And yeah, because these have this kind of powdery bloom on them. I'm finally going to pick one and I'll show it to you. You probably know this. So if you scrub this off, it becomes more purple and shiny, almost like a plum. But yeah, it has this powdery stuff. So I'm going to eat one. I'm going to eat one. Mmm, those are totally ripe. Yummy. Yeah. So how many of you have these Posca pens, Uni Posca pens? You can also use, let's see, do I have one in here? Let me find. You can also use various colored pencils, charcoal pencils. Let me see. You would not believe what a mess this place is. Oh, cannot find any. I just rearranged everything. You would not believe how messy this place is. I'm not going to show you. I'm going to do a studio tour, I think, tomorrow. But anyway, tell me if you use any kind of white charcoal pencils. They really vary in their opacity. I can show you. So like here, I like to make these little doodads. So Derwent Color Soft White is like this. Here's a different charcoal white. And these are the Uniposca white pens. So they really vary. So being more or less subtle. So this is still a little bit too wet. But yeah, there are a bunch of different white pencils that you can use. And Yeah, you can't, I can't really see that yet, but this is working well. You can see that. And it's really nice to get some, really get some three-dimensional form. Like, let's see, this was on in front. Can you see that? And then getting a little bit, maybe using a pen to separate. There we go. That helps. So see how easy that is. Let's see, where's my sun? Doo, 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 doo. There we go. So to give a little three-dimensional form, get that under there. Oops, that's a little bit too much, maybe. But anyway, and yeah, that's fun. Okay. All righty. Let me show again. There's my banner again. Tell me if that's clickable. Again, I put in the comments how you can join my Nature Notebook Club. So it's Christine Elder, just like my name.com/membership. And we're really celebrating the 1 year anniversary of my membership. So I'm going to be doing a lot more things to help inspire you to join the club and doing more of these kind of things, the studio tours and just creativity things to get you ready and inspired to join the club. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. That should be clickable. I thought those links I'm showing were clickable. But, I'm just not that technologically advanced. All right. So I know it's already 10:49. Tell me in the chat box if you want to move on. I always plan too many things, but we have so many things blooming right now. It's hard to keep up. And, this whole last couple months since I've moved to Southern Oregon, I've been sharing with you all the cool plants I'm finding out on my hikes and in my neighborhood and in my backyard, including that toxic plant, which is still affecting my hand. It's been like 3 weeks and it's starting to like scar and but it's still really itchy like every afternoon. Okay, Jolynn says yes, move on. Suzanne says yes. Okay, so we might as well move on. Here, I'm going to eat these other ones. Mmm, mmm, yummy, yummy. Okay, so moving on. Moving on. Okay, so next we have another very yummy berry that is growing right outside my door in the side yard here. And these are in a different family. These are, anybody know what these are? Did I already tell you what these were? Tell me in the chat box what these are, what kind of edible berry these are. So you can see they're in a different family. These are actually in the rose family. And you see the white petals. And your normal wild roses just have 5 white petals. Yes, Cindy, these are raspberries. And so I'm going to put these here so you can start sketching them if you want while I'm chatting. So let me make this simpler again. So this is the underside. So a lot different structure than the huckleberries. These are in a different family. They're in the rose family. And so the rose family members have little thorns, sometimes bigger thorns along their stems. And earlier we were talking about Himalayan blackberries, which are always really yummy, but non-native. And they also have a different leaf structure, much more complicated leaves. The leaves are often in threes, and they're often kind of like a zigzaggy thing and kind of crinkled like crepe paper almost. Really three-dimensional leaves compared to these flatter leaves. So these are in the rose family, and they do still have 5 petals and 5 sepals. I'll put this here for now. So, like uh, most families of plants have 5 petals and 5 sepals. And though your garden roses that you grow, those are horticultural varieties that they've added a bunch of extra petals. And we've got wonderful pink roses out front, which have dozens and dozens of petals, but that's not the native form. And in fact, that's where all of my jumping spiders live. You probably remember me talking about jumping spiders, and we're right in the thick of it right now with them getting really big, about dime sized, and the females are laying their eggs. In fact, I had to move a female in her egg case from out of my closet. They were up in the light fixture. I had to move her, and hopefully she's going to enjoy being outside and get a lot more food because there's lots of fat houseflies that they can eat. Anyway, in this one, you can see that the petals are still there, and it has tons and tons of sepals, and then the little ovaries. And so then they're just starting to develop right here. Oh, can I get closer? Let's see. Oh, there we go. So that's closer. And so you see here, we've got different stages. So here is the bud, not even open yet. And then here is the mature flower. And it's been pollinated. I can see the anthers are starting to dry up and the fruit starting to develop. And then those 5 petals will fall off pretty soon. And then we'll just be able to see the developing fruit with the remaining 5 sepals surrounding it. And so, yeah, the rose family, this is the rose family. And so, what are we doing here? Raspberry. Now, I know a lot of nature journalers spend a lot of time on their lettering. I have horrible handwriting. I save my skills for drawing, but you can be as fancy with your writing as you want. But anyway, that's this is actually the red raspberry, and its species is Rubus Id Aeus. Kind of weird. I'm not sure what that is Latin or Greek for. But anyway, this genus includes raspberries and blackberries, and the family, the rose family, Rosaceae. Again, we're ending that family name in CEAE. I hope you can read my writing. I just have horrible writing. I'm sorry. This is a really big family, super commercially important. It includes like many of the stone fruits, including pears. In fact, where I live right now in Southern Oregon is famous historically for its pear. You wouldn't call them vineyards. What do you call them? Pear orchards. And our town here is actually where the Harry and David fruit company is. You may have gotten a Harry and David subscription box before with the wonderful pears and nuts and things. Tell me if you guys know who the company Harry and David is. So anyway, the rose family includes a lot of the stone fruits and a lot of other tree fruits. And also, raspberries and blackberries and all that stuff. Okay, so anyway, so we could simplify this a little bit here. So it's easy to get too much information here. And let's just keep this a little bit more simple because we're running out of time. We're actually pretty much out of time, but of course, you can always leave and come back and watch the replay, but I do try to respect your time and let you plan for these things. And again, sorry for the late notice. My schedule is a little bit out of whack nowadays. And so I'm never quite sure when I'm going to have an opening, especially on weekends. Let's see. Let's see how these taste. How these taste. Now you can actually see if you look really closely. Here's the one red raspberry. Still has the remaining 5 sepals. And in this case, the fruit is above where the stem and sepals were. So this is a superior fruit, as opposed to when we were looking at the huckleberries. The sepals are on top of where the fruit was, separated from where the stem is, and that's an inferior fruit. Anyway, if you can feel there's these little hairy things on a raspberry and blackberry that are different from blueberries. And those little hairy things are the remainders of the stigmas that accepted the pollen to create the fruit. So anyway, when you eat one of these, they kind of taste a little fuzzy. And they have this leftover part, this kind of like cone thing left over where that was holding the fruit. Isn't that interesting? Okay, Suzanne says salmon berries, raspberries. So this is the red raspberry. Now I actually just drew a salmon berry. Where is it? Oh yeah. I just did this painting of a local hummingbird, which really loves salmon berries. So these are also in the same family. I'm not sure if they're in the same genus, but this is another shrub. Most of the rose members are shrubs, or some of them trees. So this is a salmon berry, and it's named for the salmon color, and it's being visited by this Anna's hummingbird. Anyway, so okay, so you guys can draw. And let's see. So yeah, another way I draw sometimes, especially when I'm in the field, and if I'm in a hurry or just want to get some lines down quick, I'll just start with a pen. And this is my Fudenosuke Tombow pen. And my friend Marley Pfeiffer turned me on to these. It's really fun to have colleagues in the same area of nature journaling, which gives you ideas. Suzanne said, nice painting. Thank you so much. Yeah, yesterday I just did a class, a live in-person class on painting that. So that was fun. So anyway, again, you could do a close-up if you want, or you could show this structure, or both. That's what I usually like to do, because when you're sketching and identifying plants, you generally want to try to show a flower, and a fruit and a leaf, and yeah. And if I draw that again, it's going to be different angle from what you see, but let's see. I might draw all of those stigmas and anthers first in the middle, and then I might surround it with the petals. And they're pretty wavy and crinkly. And some of them are kind of foreshortened, so they're going to be shorter. You might be seeing from them from the side. Oh, we got an ant. Go ahead. Okay. And then that stem with some prickles. Oh yeah, we got lots of little ants and things. Okay. So that's my first little flower. Oh, Cindy said that hummingbird looked like it'd fly off the page. Oh, thank you so much. So yeah, anyway, then the berry, I could draw this berry if I wanted to. And let's see, I got the stem And again, some little prickles and such. And then I have some of the sepals. And then I have these berries. And yeah, the ones on the edge would be kind of foreshortened. So the berries in the middle would be kind of all the same size, but they get smaller up here a little bit. So they're going to be kind of big. And then as you go around the edge of the berry, you're going to be seeing more of the edge of each individual fruit. I think this is called an accessory fruit. And then again, there's all these fuzzy things that are coming out of every single one because that is the remainder of the stigma that accepted the pollen that created the fruit. There we go. That's fun. All righty. A little lopsided, but I love plants because they don't have to be exact. It's not like an animal that has to have two eyes or something. Plants are really variable. Okay, and then what else? I could draw this leaf. And again, they're usually the rose family is, well, there's lots of exceptions, but they're often gonna have these three leaflets. The whole leaf starts down here, actually. So if I was gonna go like this, and then we have, um, sometimes I'll just draw the midsection of each one, and then I'll go, let's see. Well, that's not that accurate, but anyway, sometimes sometimes if you point and you just kind of go slower, this is kind of messy. It's got this fine point on this one compared to these two. Anyway, that's what I got there. Cindy says you really like the leaves. Yeah, I mean, they are it's funny, these leaves are a little flatter. Oh, look what's underneath. Oh, wow. What do we have underneath here? Those might be butterfly eggs. Can you see those? I think those are butterfly eggs. Wow. That's cool. I should put those back outside. You could always nature journal about that too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those are butterfly eggs. I could look at them under a microscope. Yeah, Cindy says, cool. Yeah. So anyway, these leaves seem to be flatter, whereas these ones, I don't know if this is a different variety. They're all growing together, but you see how much more textured and kind of crepe paper crinkled these are compared to these? Isn't that interesting? They're right next to each other. So that's something you could notice. That would take a little bit of time to really show in your drawing, but it's almost these leaves are really cool because they're almost like a watershed. If you think of a mountain and the water coming off the mountain and creating all these valleys of rivers, right? So Cindy says they look corrugated. Yeah. And, if you don't have the time or you think you don't have the skills to show this kind of thing in your drawing, you can always just kind of add words. And so, corrugated. I forgot how to spell that. So I'm glad Cindy's got that. So they could have kind of a corrugated, almost like an accordion texture, right? Oh, sorry, I moved these. I hope you weren't trying to draw them. This one's kind of fun because you can see that the fruit has fallen off, or is that the one I picked? And you just see the 5 little pointy sepals, and then you just see all of these fuzzy remaining anthers and stigmas. So yeah, that could take some time to show. And I often kind of, I don't know, maybe I can blame it on ADD or something, but I have a hard time keeping interested when there's a lot of repeating structures like this. uh, it takes a while. So anyway, well, I might want to add a little color now. I think I'm going to add some color. And again, for fun, I might just make some swatches. I love this opera pink. Is this my opera pink? Yeah. And again, you can layer. Here's more of a red. Oh, can you see that? They're reflecting in the lights, so it's hard for you to see the color. But just the idea is that I'll take I'll take some of my colors that are kind of similar. I've got, various sort of magentas, quinacridone magenta, quinacridone pink, and some of these are Daniel Smith colors. And actually, I'm really excited. Next week, is it next week or is it next month? A representative from the Daniel Smith Paint Company is coming to my favorite local art store here near Ashland. And they are going to be doing a little workshop and demonstration. So again, I might just make some fun swatches here and see what colors I want to make my berries. And again, those berries are going to vary in color, just like the huckleberries did, from a sort of green to more of a pinkish red. And so, and again, I might start with a kind of a bright pink, and then I will mute it down. So maybe I'll do that to begin with, because you can't ever get your brights back in watercolors. So you got to start kind of more bright and cartoony, and then mute them down after that. So I might let that dry a bit. And I think, oh, Suzanne, I'm talking about the Scrappy Crafters in Phoenix, Oregon. But we also have, in Medford, the Central Art Supply. And, I recently moved here from Central Oregon. And even though that was a pretty big town I lived in, we did not have one good art store, let alone 2. So one of the many reasons I'm really enjoying living in this new part of Oregon, and also why you, my viewers, are benefiting, because I'm finding so many interesting new plants and animals. Like I never saw jumping spiders in Bend. Now these white flowers, of course, it's kind of hard to draw the white petals. So, I might just do some color around it. Again, I know we're over our time limit, but you can stay here if you want. I think most of you guys who started with me live are still here today. And you can always catch the replay. And, I really appreciate Let me put this link in the chat box to remind you. I put the link to today's live event in the chat box, and I would really appreciate you sharing that with a friend so that they could watch, because I'm really trying to grow my audience. It's very difficult nowadays to try to get found, even though I do tons of live events on Facebook and YouTube and here on StreamYard. Um, People just, it's not showing to people. If I do an event and I've got 2,000 followers on like YouTube, I might have 100 of those people actually see it. So it's so important for me to have folks that already enjoy my activities to personally share them with a friend, and that's the only way more people are going to find what I do, which helps me, because then more people might be able to support me by, joining my Nature Notebook Club. And then that way I can afford to keep doing these programs. Let's see, I might add a little bit of gray to these petals. Yeah, Suzanne says you don't have any where you live. Yeah, I think you're pretty remote there in Portugal. Okay, so I love that. That's kind of fun. And you don't have to exactly match the colors. You can just have fun. This is a personal thing for you. It's not like you're trying to be a professional botanical illustrator. Um, and, you just want to do some self care, right? Because any day you're doing art is fun. That's why I always say when I go to the art store and they say, "Have a nice day," and I always say, "Any day I'm doing art projects is a good day." Anyway, I'm trying to add a little bit of those interesting corrugated hills and valleys. Uh, and this brush is very wet because it's new, so it's leaking a bit. And sometimes, it's kind of fun sometimes to do a cast shadow. I'm just going to do a little bit of a cast shadow here. We see that, I've picked these and they're sitting here on the paper. So sometimes making a little subtle cast shadow is fun. It makes your art kind of sit down on the paper. I might add a little yellow. So yeah, watercolors always dry paler. So maybe there's even, no, I'd say these I don't know, these petals even actually have a tiny touch of pink, really subtle. Yeah, and this might be when the watercolors are wet, they're reflecting the lights in the studio and you can't really see what I'm doing. But I did add a little bit of pink because I see some pink, just like, commercial roses are pink. And I also see some green in here, darker green here. Oh yeah, those sepals. Some sepals are sticking out a little bit. All righty. Okay, so yeah, that is the red raspberry rubus ideus, I believe. Yeah, so I'd love to have you consider joining my Nature Notebook Club. I am celebrating the 1-year anniversary this month of it. I think the anniversary, we actually started about July 1st. So tomorrow's June 1st. So I'm going to be spending a month doing some extra content on social media and in my newsletter and some lives. So if you don't already follow me live on Facebook or Instagram, I suggest doing that. So I'll be sharing more to kind of get you inspired. I'm going to put my Facebook link and my Instagram link if you're not already following me there. And again, please share these because it is, like I said, pretty difficult to get found anymore. So I just put the links there. I put the links to my social media. So it's pretty hard to get found nowadays on the internet. I did start teaching online back in 2019, the very first weeks of the pandemic, and I've been teaching ever since. Over 300 live online workshops like these. Many of them were free or by donation. And so it really helps to grow my audience because there's always going to be just a small percentage of you that sign up to be on my newsletter, that actually attend my events, and even a smaller proportion statistically always joins my programs. So you have to have a pretty big audience to have enough people to actually support yourself. And I am an artist full-time, a teaching artist. So this new studio also was quite expensive to get set up. So it does cost money. All the technology, my lights and my cameras, my microphone, that all costs money. So, I do appreciate people sharing so that I can grow my audience and more people can learn about these fun events and learn about nature through, the sketching and journaling and painting practice. So I hope you found it relaxing today and gave you a few minutes away from your other responsibilities and other deadlines and the worries of the world. And, I really enjoy helping people. It's almost like teaching a yoga class or taking a massage. Is that it's very relaxing, and self-care is so important in this day and age. Because if you totally empty your cup, helping everybody else, your parents or grandparents or your kids or grandkids or your bosses or your partners, if you're emptying that cup and you don't have enough energy left for yourself, you're really not going to have enough quality energy left for your family and friends. So it's important to do that. Now, I did want to say that if you join the Nature Notebook Club, every month I have a master class focused on a different kind of plant or animal. And this coming month, well, in May, we did birds because birds are in migration season. Next month, in just a couple weeks, we're going to be doing flowers because this is the early summer and lots of flowers. So if you've enjoyed these last sessions I've been doing on the flowers in my neighborhood and in my hikes and in my garden, you'll enjoy the Nature Notebook Club. Again, there is a link in the chat box and links on my social media. And then in July, since it's hot and summer, we're going to focus in the club on succulent plants. So I love succulents, and they're not just cactus. Most of the time when people think of a succulent, they think of cactus. There's actually many weird and rare families of succulents that aren't from North America like cactus are. Many of them are from South Africa, which is one of my favorite bucket list countries I want to visit, not necessarily just because of the big five wildlife like rhinos, but South Africa has a very interesting endemics in an area called the Cape Floristic Province in the very tip of South Africa. And that has some of the highest plant diversity in the world, including these really weird plants like the stone plant. And mine is just about to flower. And I'm so excited. It's very happy. because it's easy to kill succulents from overwatering them. It's good to give them benign neglect, kind of like you would give to an orchid. Yeah, so in my Nature Notebook Club, every month I have a master class on a different subject where we learn about the anatomy and diversity and taxonomy of the group, and then we do some sketching. In the club, I also do weekly tips. And then we also have a monthly member meetup. And I do have members from 4 different countries, I think. And then there's also a library of quick tutorials on sketching and journaling and painting, mainly all based in the field, things you can do in 5 to 10 or 15 minutes. So Deb said, is the link, let me put that link here, just a minute. The link to donate. And you can donate if you don't, if you don't feel like joining my membership, or you don't have that kind of funding right now, or you're too busy. I did put a link to donate, and you can donate by secure connection through your MasterCard or credit card or ATM or whatever, PayPal, all of those things, even Venmo, I think. Oh yeah, Cynthia said, what is the wrist thing called? I don't know. It's called a wrist sock, maybe. I don't know. I just cut my socks up and I use it on my wrist. I got to give credit to John Muir Laws. He's my colleague in California. We both graduated from the same science illustration program at the University of California. So that's how we know each other. And we're both from the San Francisco Bay Area originally. But anyway, I use this socky thing to dry my brush. So I'll squeeze it and dry it and clean it on my wrist. And then eventually these get colored with a lot of different colors of paints. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you enjoyed learning about 2 different families of flowering shrubs that have edible berries. In fact, there's many species in both of those families. The rose family, which makes the raspberry, and the heath family, which makes the huckleberry and blueberry. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. All righty, thanks for joining me today and sticking around for an hour and a half. And yeah, keep in touch, and we'll see you soon. Bye.